threat, destruction, loss. These are happening in reality, an evidence that our environment is ailing, induced by human conditioning and exertion.
Typhoon Juan made landfall before noon on Sunday.
Ramdam na ang epekto ng El Nino sa lahat ng bayan sa
In the Philippines, at least 70 people have died in floods caused by
Millions of gallons of water pouring through the Swat Valley, a force of nature with no
Drought is
respect.
affecting many areas, but the high cost of food and fuel is
This is what it's like in downtown New Orleans right now.
Typhoon Katsana has killed at least 86 people in the Philippines and
It's
left
supposed to be harvest season, but it isn't turning out the way farmers in the northern Philippines had
With
hoped.
expected changes in the climate system, we expect
Climate change is resulting in extreme weather events all over the world. Most vulnerable are those who depend on the weather for their livelihoods.
The impact of human activities in the Philippines boils out to the occurrence of threat, destruction, and loss. Threat from our environment and for the future, destruction of biodiversity in the physical world, and loss of life. The way environment charge against humanity is through catastrophes, one of which is through excessive rainfall causing flash floods. Flash floods is really devastating to biodiversity and to human life. It sinks houses, flush away properties and possessions, as well as crops, alter the physical formation of the land, kills and tortures domesticated animals, and imperil and take away lives of the people.
Yung mga taga doon,
Mataya balahibo ko.
Flash floods occur when there is a clog in the drainage system, basically waste and plastics being dumped and was accumulated there. Because of that, water is unable to flow freely, making its way to the community and taking the water so much time to subside because of the clog. This also makes life harder, especially after the disaster. Landslides is also another disaster that is a human-induced hazard. It is brought about by excessive rainfall as well, but mainly it is due to deforestation or clearing of the trees. Clearing the trees is a means of clearing out the support that holds the soil, which prevents from erosion. The consequences brought by landslides buried down communities and the lowlands. Deforestation is really a threat to our environment. Another underlying effects of it are wildlife depletion and water shortages. The Philippine biodiversity is on the brink of major wildlife crisis. Together with hunting, lack of wildlife management, and ignorance among people are culprits why most of our endemic wildlife species are threatened with extinction. Are only few of the many vulnerable species. They will soon be endangered unless their survival and reproduction rate are preserved. Are already tagged as endangered species. Due to their continuous decreasing number, sooner or later they will be extinct. are considered critically endangered species. Their numbers have decreased by 80% within 3 generations. This serves as a call for all the Filipinos, the Philippines, to protect our country's very own wildlife species and act upon it before they are all gone. Water shortages. Water shortages in the country is also rampant. The destruction of our forests causes water to go short, especially those that are drinkable. Forests help maintain high water quality, influence the volume of available water, and regulate surface water and groundwater flows. Moreover, it controls the water cycle, regulating precipitation, evaporation, and flows. But because of the environmental problem, many of the Filipinos are suffering from water shortages, especially in the Metro Manila.
Pag walang tubig, hirap-hirap talaga. Ilang araw na. Mapupuyat ka. Gising ka na maaga para maghanap ng tirahan. Pagkatapos, wala naman tubig.
Yung pinagugasan po namin ng plato o pinagliguan ng namin, iniipon po namin para gagamitin po sa CR namin pambuhos.
Thus, there's a need to rehabilitate our forests, most especially that the Philippines ranks the highest to be susceptible by climate hazards. DENR says 1.2 million hectares of our forest lands should be rehabilitated by 2022. This will help mitigate climate hazard, ensure water availability, and preserve biodiversity. Another thing experts say that water shortages is due to overpopulation, which causes high demand of water consumption, and water pollution, which contaminate water system, which decreases the volume of potable water enough for a very dense population. The increasing number of people bothered the government because it is really a big challenge on how to compensate the community with the needs of water. Building dams is the first thing they see as solution. However, such action could really harm biodiversity, which was also raised by the environmentalists. Because proper solution shouldn't put others at stake and never disrupt the balance in the environment. Hence, we should look for a more eco-friendly solution. Speaking of overpopulation, another impact it brought was pollution. More people means more vehicles, and more vehicles, the more emission of dust and gases concentrating the atmosphere. Parallel to that, there is an expansion of urban and rural infrastructures, which brought so much construction and exacerbated environmental degradation. Moreover, people seek convenience in life, reason why demand increases. As such, intensive manufactures and factories and industries were overly exploited. As a result, our air has become dangerous to breathe. Pollution in air causes detrimental effects to the health and well-being of the people. The whole community become uncomfortable and uneasy knowing that air in our environment is one of the most fundamental and vital source of life. The question of many, where could we live and breathe then? Meanwhile, in our oceans, besides the problem of over and illegal fishing, one of the threats in our oceans are waste and plastics. The problems of plastics in the Philippines is very alarming, knowing that we rank third as largest plastic waste producers in the world. Philippines is also put high on the list of nations with major waste leakage and plastic pollution due to growing population, rising incomes and consumption, inadequate infrastructure, and weak regulation. These plastics and wastes hovers the shore, water taps, and sinks down the ocean floor. It pollutes the water, affecting marine biodiversity. Fishes, sea turtles, dolphins, whales, and other sea creatures swallow the waste because it seems imitating a source of food for them. And because of that, their health is affected, causing them to die. These plastics also destroys the natural habitat of the fishes, where life harbor and thrive. When their habitat is destroyed, it really is a big threat to marine biodiversity. Fishermen have commented that plastics are smothering coral reefs, resulting in lower fish yields and ecosystem-wide impacts. Despite the threat, destruction, and loss brought about by our environment to us, resiliency is still there. The spirit never fades among every Filipino. We are still able to rise and wear smiles in every faces. However, this happens because what's happening is not irreversible yet, but it should serve as a wake-up call for the Philippines, for the Filipinos, that our environment is already suffering from our lust towards convenience. We should work together and do our part in the environment because true resilience comes from a healthy environment. We should start now and multiply the efforts because one question that underlies is, are we able to save our environment on time?